Welcome back, Tales and Fails Miniatures. Today we're reviewing the D&D Icons of the Realms Remorhaz. Pretty excited about this one. It's also known as the
ice worm or the polar worm, depending on which edition or which game you're playing.
So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's brand new, just came out within the last couple of days, so just wanted to get one and show it to you guys. So let's get into it. Alright, let's get into this. Like I said, this is brand new. Just got it. They're actually already sold out on WizKid's website, which is insane, honestly, for a singular miniature. But man, is that thing sweet. I'll say right off the bat, the colors are phenomenal. Really cool. Man, the amount of legs.
Yeah.
And
not to mention the transition of the legs. Silver to blue on every single leg.
Oh yeah, it is like different colored.
Yeah, highlights and lowlights the whole way through both the carapace.
I don't think it is actually. I think it's the chromatic paint. So see how it's silver here? And then if you turn it...
Oh, you're right. You're right, it's light. It's light dependent.
And if you look like from here, it's all blue. All the legs. So really cool. They're doing a chromatic style paint on this to where everything's changing as you kind of spin it. So that's wild.
Yeah, interesting comparison to the box, where the box kind of makes the paint look a little bit more matte, where it is a silver transitioning to blue on the tips of each of the legs, but as he said, it's actually light dependent, so where the light's hitting, the blue actually turns to a more silverish or lightish color.
Yeah.
And then as the shadows hit it, it gives you the blue that's depicted in the side of the box here.
Yeah, very cool. Huge flares coming off the head there, like the wings.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really cool. They did a pretty good job on the paint job here. I'm not a huge fan of the orange that they picked across the back. I think it's a little...
It's flat in comparison to the rest of the mini, I think.
Yeah. I wish they would have maybe like a almost more yellowy, because it is based off of the heat effect that the worm has.
Yeah, so it uses the heat on its back to help it burrow and melt through the ice due to the Arctic climates that this thing tends to live in.
Yeah.
Those red spots also indicating the heat, sensors that it has.
Yeah.
It also has the ability to turn those off if it's skulking prey. So if it's buried under the ice, it can turn those off so that it doesn't create like a thinner sheet of ice, or like a place that like maybe the snow is not there anymore. So it actually shuts those off so that it can remain a little bit more camouflage in the environment.
Which really cool, weird way to play that off, actually, which I don't think I've ever seen before. But a DM could actually have it to where the worm makes a trap, makes a thin sheet.
Yeah.
I just thought about that as you were saying that, like being able to use its heat in order to extrude the heat out to make a thin sheet of ice and have the players fall into kind of a, little like battle zone in a sense, would be really wild.
Yeah, where actually, so these things, Remorhaz they make burrows underground, similar to like an ant pile, if you've ever seen somebody like pour the copper into the ant and they bring it out and it's just all these tunnels. They live underground in those situations, and they usually make a very large cavity or crevice under there where they will lay their eggs and stuff. But like he was saying, yeah, it could actually use its heat and create a spot where the ice or the surface is thinner, to where, depending on how much the character weighs, or if you got heavy armor on, your character's walking over, the ice cracks under the weight, and all of a sudden, you're not only fighting a Remorhaz as an ambush predator, but you just fell into a battle scene of its own design.
Yeah, which is really cool. Like,
yeah.
That popped in my head. Yeah, and something wild about this, the teeth on this extra little flap.
I almost grabbed it from me to show you this.
It's okay, so we'll go over the sculpt here, because number one, super amounts of detail. I mean, the weird like bumps and stuff on the chitinous armor, on all of the legs, basically the whole thing, and the ripples in the wings itself are extremely nice, and they did, again, a very nice job on the paint. Again, I think my biggest downfall is maybe, like, I know that with pre-painted miniatures it may not happen, but like an airbrush, maybe even just like a little bit of yellow around each one to make it look like they're glowing a little bit.
On the orange spots.
On the orange spots, yeah.
Yes, they come off very flat because the rest of the paint, even up here
chromatic.
in the wings, is a kind of gradient paint, and it changes based on light. The orange is a very matte paint, so even in light, it doesn't really change much, and it's very, like, blatant.
Yeah, but still very cool. I mean, when you put it a foot away on the table, you're going to be looking at it from 2 feet away when you're actually playing at a D&D table. It still is very cool. I love it overall. The sculpt is insane. These huge, just nasty looking cockroach whiskers almost. And then again, the teeth on the bottom flaps, like, is wild, I guess, since this does have a swallowing ability. Maybe those are used to actually pull, in. But very nice there. We do have a couple of the older school ones here. So
yeah, it's almost it's like Predator-esque, where like the bottom jaw almost has additional mandibles that come out and help shove things in for the swallowing effect that he was talking about.
I will say from the older ones, all of the heat indicators on these, like this one's pretty close in paint job wise, the blue, but all the like heat indicators are spikes compared to this new one where they're kind of spikes, but they're much smaller, a little bit more dull. So that's one of the biggest differences I see. It also has a hell of a lot more legs. Like the legs are a lot closer. This is the oldest one I think I have. This one 2016, this one's 2019. So 2016 obviously a lot smaller. I love the ice effect that they put on this one.
Bases are big.
It coming out of the ice. This one they kind of put it coming out of, they painted it silver, so it just looks more like silver. But very cool. I love the nuclear base style for sure. When you have a really nice battle map underneath it, it still looks really, really good. I am also a fan though of having ice and stuff like that on it. I wish they would start doing ice like with a clear base.
Yep,
would be really nice, but
especially if you're working with like a tabletop battle mat, like where you've got a backlight or an LED TV that's showing through, like the clear ice that's on this oldest one here. If you could add that to a clear base, you're still gonna get the light effect that shows through both pieces of the clear base and the ice.
Yeah.
And you can, color it, you can highlight it, you can do a million things with those TV battle mats and, highlight where that creature is. It does give, throughout all three renditions, I will say, even though there are differences in the spike, the matte paint, whatever, it gives the effect of a dangerous animal, like a toxic animal, like 100%. Snakes, brightly colored, poisonous dart frogs. Yeah. You've got a brightly colored thing, so it gives, without going into too much like metagame at the table, it's pretty obvious that like there's something going on here that is potentially hazardous to close proximity.
Definitely. Yeah, and I will say, size-wise, it's pretty similar to the 2019. It's 10 times a better sculpt, though. I mean, there's probably 4 times the amount of legs. The detail on, like, the tail, I mean, it doesn't even really look like a tail on the 2019. This one, you can see each individual plate. The sculpts that they're coming out with right now are amazing, and this is not an exception. It's extremely nice, really, really cool miniature, and I'm excited to have another Remorhaz in the collection that is very obviously much nicer and is going to scare the players just a hair more.
Yeah, and on the legs, a different note. So the older two, both of them, each of the legs has kind of 2 toes coming off of it, almost like shrimp legs.
Or hooves, yeah.
Yeah, like hooves or shrimp feet, whereas this one is a much more pronounced like claw or hook, making it a little bit more imposing on the table.
Definitely.
Which I like. Even though this creature doesn't technically have like a claw attack or anything like that.
It only has a bite attack, which I believe it's 6d10 or it's something absolutely ridiculous.
It's 70 damage average, so it's more than 60-10. Or maybe it's 40. Sorry, you're right. It is. It's 40 damage flat or 60-10 if you're rolling it.
And then it also, if it hits, then it has a chance to swallow you. And the only way to get out of it is dealing 30 damage in a single round.
Which it still has to pass a con save at that point. So if you do 30 damage, con 15 save on its part, or else it regurgitates all creatures swallowed. So it can handle more than one,
which is even more sketchy
at a time. Yeah.
Super sketchy. And if you are attacking it within 5 feet, it does 3d6 damage just from being in proximity because it activates its heat ports, basically, I guess is what I'll call them. And so anything within that range of melee is getting additional damage, so it's extremely dangerous. Like, not
and
something
another
to mess with.
Interesting fact, like, since these ice polar worms they live in the Arctic, so them having the fire ability, which most cold creatures are vulnerable to.
Yeah.
And while you're in the Arctic, typically you're gonna have cold resistance because you're used to fighting things that are cold based, and these are fire based. So all of a sudden you're out there and you're fighting, your frost giants and the rest of the creatures that D&D has for you in an Arctic setting. And all of a sudden you come across fire damage.
Yeah, I think they're resistant or immune to...
They're immune to cold and fire.
Yeah, immune to cold and fire damage, which is just insane. I mean, that's, by itself, that is super dangerous. I mean, if you're dealing any sort of magical damage, I mean, your wizard is basically AFK.
Hopefully they mastered lightning.
I mean, which is your sorcerer, not your... So, you're coming out on a really just bad downfall there. But a really, really fun thing is, as a DM, instead of having it go to the death, you sometimes, since these are actually raisable, if you get the young or eggs, not sure which one it is, but you can actually raise them, and like certain towns and stuff like that will actually use them as defense. And so instead of it being a fight to the death, sometimes you could have it where it runs back to the town that it's actually protecting and to get protection from the town, and or maybe have like a rider come in and call it off and then talk to the players to where now you have a narrative scene going on for the players. There's so many different fun ways to use it. Yes, you can obviously just use it, fight to the death, you just fought a monster, cool. But adding a narrative scene, especially like they did in Critical Role, they didn't use a narrative scene, which I think would have been a really cool idea. Instead, they defeated the Remorhaz, went on, and then had wolves chasing them.
Yes, that's right.
I think it would have been really cool to instead have one of those riders come in and stop the fight.
Yeah.
And actually like have a narrative scene, then be like, okay, follow me back to the town. It just would have... There's very fun ways to twist this that is really cool. And before I started looking into them, I didn't realize that they can be raised, tamed.
Yeah,
like, that's
domesticated.
Epic. Yeah. And they're mostly, by frost giants?
Frost giants was one of the older D&D versions. They were originally written and domesticated by frost giants to median success. Like, it wasn't always successful taking one, whether it was an egg or a hatchling, and trying to domesticate it. Sometimes they would turn. And again, like you were saying, like, not all fights to death. Like, sometimes the Remorhaz may just decide, like, this fight isn't worth it if I'm just protecting these people.
Yep.
And they might run. There's also, they do have an entire stat block for a young Remorhaz, which is a CR5 versus the adult at a CR11.
I wish they would make some young...
Yeah, so you could play in this fight where your party runs into a Remorhaz, but it's actually just a young one.
Yeah.
And you're fighting a CR5, and then all of a sudden the Scream calls in Mom and Dad, like very Jurassic Park-esque.
That would
Mom
be
and Dad come to the rescue,
cool.
and all of a sudden your fight goes a whole lot more elevated, or in the same sense, you're fighting a Remorhaz that is an early alert system for frost giants.
And so now, instead of just a Remorhaz, that's just the early battle where the players are already like, holy crap, that sucked. And then frost giants show up. You can play that in a lot of different ways, and it's a lot of fun. Like, something like this, there's so many different creatures and beasts and monsters and monstrosities in D&D that have a lot more than most people use them for. 100%. Because again, I missed out a lot on what, the possibility of these are until I really started looking into it. And so like this is my brother Brennan, so my brother Nick that was in the previous videos, when he was running our campaign, we were doing mammoth races with a bunch of frost giants to prove ourselves, and Remorhazes came in. And so Nikki and I were finally talking about it and went, what if the frost giants called those in?
Yeah.
In order to try to win and distract us. And we were like, we had no idea. It's just super cool, weird things that maybe you don't pick up on as a player, that sometimes the DM is doing in the background. That's just a huge amount of fun. And this is something that you can do so many different things with, like that, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of like job boards in game, where the Remorhaz egg among certain communities is extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Whether for domestication or just the value of the egg itself, or even the having a young Remorhaz has. So the chitin is available to make magical armor out of, like, so you can build a chitin armor that would give you a either fire or cold resistance, depending on.
No, so the chitin is just used as armor as a whole. That's normal. The secretion from the Remorhaz is used. It's called thyme, I believe, and it's used in the creation for alchemists and magical weapons and armor builders in order to give a heat or cold resistance or immunity to.
Yeah. So you think of Frostbrand short swords, your flame tongue long swords, that type of stuff.
And being able to, and it's always fun as a player to just sit down and say, well, I want to try to harvest it. And then, the DM gets to decide, like, well, what part are you harvesting? And if the character is like, well, what do I see? And so on and so forth. And you can play that out, and it just adds just that little bit of extra detail and fun to a game that makes it seem more realistic, it just adds that little bit of creation, in a sense, that's a lot of fun for the players.
Yeah, it gives the player an option to do something more than just fight monsters and do the day-to-day.
Instead of being murder hobos, it is more of an actual coming in and enjoying what you're doing. I turned my character into a cook, basically, because I thought that was fun, but a cook of only exotic meats. So I was specifically going out of my way to find T-Rex and exotic birds and all these exotic things that I could find, and would try to learn how to cook, and I would have to succeed on on rolls in order to build my stats in that, and that's just a really fun way to do things like this.
And especially with the Remorhaz is, again, Arctic environments only.
Yeah.
So you've got a limited, not to mention its difficulty. Like you cannot
CR 11.
11.
Yeah.
You cannot understand its difficulty. So even if you manage to defeat and harvest the chitin of one of these, you still have to find a very specialized alchemist, magician, blacksmith that can work with something that they may have never seen before.
Yeah.
It's probably a limited scope of who has seen.
That's true.
Body parts of a Remorhaz before.
Yeah, giant ice worm. Well, giant ice centipede, really. That's the biggest thing. Is, again, the amount of legs between the older versions to this is freaking wild. It looks. This one only has 11 or 12 legs, I think.
Yeah.
This one's got like 20.
Yeah.
The look on the new miniature is just so much nicer. It gives it that creepy, weird vibe to it that just makes it a little bit more terrifying when you do run into it, which is nicer compared to the older ones. The older ones are like, it's weird looking. The new one's like, holy shit, that's scary.
Yeah, definitely. It went from, I'm gonna call it like Eastern dragon, like an Oriental dragon type thing. And then all of a sudden they were like, we'll keep some of the aspects, the long whiskers, the
big fans.
And then they said, let's add 3 extra sets of mandibles.
Yeah.
To make the mouth look, and we can do some close-ups later, but the mouths really were the biggest change, where they just said, no, let's make it obvious that, even the teeth, this is the only one with colored teeth.
Yes.
It makes them stand out so that if you're facing this thing, and even if you're sitting, I don't know, I would say probably 6 feet away, you can still see the jaw in great detail.
Each individual tooth coming down those extra mandibles. It's just really wild. So, I think this is the best Remorhaz miniature that has come out. I only have these two. I would assume there's probably more out there, but from WizKids at least. But these are the only ones that I have, and this is guaranteed the scariest and the best looking. I think the only downfall is the spines on the back being that almost matte orange is the only downfall, but again, it still looks phenomenal. It's a beautiful miniature. I would highly recommend picking one up, and it really is just a really nice addition to any collection. So I really enjoy this. We think this is an awesome miniature. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. So please do like and subscribe, and we will catch you in the next one. Cheers.